Back on design, I'm going to start with cars. Cars is an interesting subject, I think, because there's always some kind of love affair with cars. And I thought, I'm going to try and do my list of my 5 favorite all-time cars, and it doesn't work. I would come up with 10 cars and then think of 10 more that I really like to put on the list, and then I'd think of 10 more, and I don't think I could come up with 5 cars that are my favorite cars. I've always had a little love affair with cars. I think even since I was a kid, before I could drive, I just thought cars were so cool. I used to follow the new models that came out every year, and the Geneva Auto Show, and I had a subscription to Hot Rod Magazine and Road and Track, and I just thought the car designs were so cool, and concept cars really blew me away, because I always thought that that meant that that was going to be produced in like 3 or 4 years, but most of that never came to fruition, unfortunately. I think I've had my share of cars, I suppose, and some pretty interesting fun cars, but if I wasn't an architect, I think I probably would be in something that had to do with industrial design, and specifically car design, because I think you can really have a lot of fun with car design. And when you take something that is just an incredible piece of moving sculpture and you make it technologically advanced, you can marry all the worlds of sculpture, art, beauty, technology, and just have a lot of fun with it. So I tried to pull together at least some cars that I know would definitely be on the list, but there's so many that could never, it would take me 3 hours to get through the list of cars, I think. I had good taste in cars. I remember this 66 Mustang that she had that was exactly like this, that I helped pick out when I was 9 years old. And when I was in high school, I worked for a guy who had a car collection, and there was this car that I'd never seen before, which was a 1929 DuPont, and just phenomenal looking car that I knew nothing about. And he also had a Cord, which just was the essence of glamour and sophistication. I think in the 30s, it was kind of what everybody in Hollywood drove whenever you saw some kind of glamour star in it. 55 Jaguar, it's how do you argue with something like that? And when you look at this, a Mercedes like this was just so far ahead of its time, and gull-wing doors were just something out of a sci-fi movie in 1955. And you can't do a list without a Corvette, and this is just a 58 Corvette that's just gorgeous. I mean, again, just one of those things that kind of set the world on fire whenever it came out. And you have cars that you can just kind of dream about. I'll probably never own one of these, but you just look at it and it just defines driving to me, basically. It's just, it looks like it's going 120 miles an hour when it's just sitting there. And when I talk about the idea of marriage of beauty and style and technology, you look at Tesla, and here's a great little 2-seat roadster that's all electric, and it makes a 4-door, and they're high performance cars that nobody really ever thought they would make. I hope this company makes it. I hope it doesn't go the route of DeLorean or anything. And I did just hear that the founder of the company is getting divorced, and there's a nasty battle over it with his wife, so who knows if that's going to make it. These are some cars that I've owned, actually, which I put in the fun car category. Audi TT, just, again, great little fun car. I now drive a Prius, and I drive a Prius for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's a great car from the standpoint it's got a lot of room in it. It's practical, and I can be practical sometimes. And how can you argue with a car that gets 50 miles to the gallon? Especially now when it's almost $4 a gallon. This is probably the all-time favorite car I ever owned. The 1966 Triumph TR4A IRS, just the epitome of a British sports car. It was red, wire wheels, black top, black interior. Pretty much never put the top up, and I had this car when I lived in Southern California, so it was one of my favorite drives, and it was at like 4 in the morning going down PCH between Corona del Mar and Laguna, and when there was a full moon and there was no development down there at the time, and you could shut the lights off and just drive by the moonlight. Okay, I was young, well, that was stupid. I do drive a Prius as my everyday car, but I do have a weekend car, which I think I talked about before, and I think I realized the real essence of this a couple of weeks ago when I was driving to Palm Springs. I specifically took the 2-lane back roads through the desert to get there, and I just put new tires on the car, and I don't really drive it that often, honestly. And I'm going along, and I thought, God, this is great. This really handles like it's supposed to. This is just the ultimate driving experience, because it was just hugging all the corners and really tight going through the turns. And I looked down, I was doing 105 miles an hour. And I thought, that's pretty stupid. I should probably not be driving 105 on a 2-lane road when I hadn't seen another car for 2.5 hours. So I did find from that point on it was very hard to keep the car under 90. And I really don't drive like that. I'm a little more sane. I've only had 2 tickets in the car. But I think you can buy different kinds of cars for different reasons. And I tend to buy cars because I buy them as sculpture. I think they're just moving pieces of sculpture and pieces of art. And I like the design of them. I like the detailing of them. And it is kind of that extension of the architect and the design philosophy. So that's something that's on my list. Like I said, it would take me 3 hours to come up with a whole list, and I'm sure there's a bazillion cars out there that would make the list. Okay, not quite a bazillion, but I did leave another one off that I like too, which is the smart car. Except when I first saw the smart car in Europe in 2003 or even before that, it was a Roadster Targa. It wasn't the shopping cart version. It was much sleeker, and I kept saying again, I can't wait till they import this to the States, and for whatever reason it never made it here. So who knows? But let me know what the favorite car is you ever owned, or what would be your top 5 cars on a list. I'd be kind of curious to know. I'm sure there's probably a few things I haven't heard of that other people can come up with. Later.